Kenny, thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule, man, to come and help out with the podcast. It means a ton to me, man. I know you got a lot of stuff going on, so we'll try to make this short and sweet, man. And again, thanks, brother.
You're welcome. And I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, man. Kenny, not too many people know this, but you were actually my first high school. Well, not my first high school. You were my first wrestling coach ever, man. You got me involved in the sport. So everything that I've done and contributed to the sport, you know, a lot of it came from you, man, introducing me. I remember my first day at wrestling practice over at Arroyo High School for SGV kids. My brother and I were fucking pumped because we had just gotten into WWF. So my pops tells us, oh, you guys are wrestling now. What? I remember getting out of the car and Andy saying something along the lines of like, oh, I can't wait to hit somebody in the head with a chair. Dude, he's fucking 4 years old and I'm 7 years old, man. And it's like, that's the first thing that came out. We walk in the gym and it's like, what the fuck is this?
There's no chairs.
There's no chairs. Like, oh, microphones. Where's all that?
The ladders.
So that was our actual intro into wrestling, man. And you were one of the assistants there while you were coaching at Sure High School, man.
Yeah,
you were a coach at Sure High School. You're still helping out to this day.
Yeah.
Man, so you started coaching. You wrestled there. You graduated 88?
88, yeah.
88, got right into coaching. That was what you were doing through college.
Yep.
Yep. And then just stuck around, man. You were the head coach there for a couple years. You and I actually had the opportunity, and this is one of my like favorite years ever, man. When I was, in my coaching career, I was the head coach at Sure for 1 year, man. And man, it was such a good time. And I loved the opportunity to be able to coach side by side with you. Not only were you in my corner, you cornered me when I was a youngster. Now I have the opportunity to work side by side with you. And I'm not sure if you know this, but my little tag, Find a Way. I got that from you.
Really?
Got that from you, man. You are the originator of that. We had just hosted a practice at Sure. And, we sit the kids down, we talk to them, review practice.
After practice.
After practice. And there was a talk you had with the kids, man. And this is like the kind of coach that I am, because whenever like someone who is a reputable coach, in my opinion, is talking, like, I'm listening. Even when I'm on the staff, Pete had a lot of influence on me. Obviously, you had a lot of influence on me. But we're sitting down talking to the kids, and you said something along the lines of like, you guys could have a million reasons to not show up. Like there's chicks, there's video games, there's anything, everything, work, whatever.
Family. Yeah.
Find one way to show up to practice.
Yeah.
Find a way.
Yeah.
And that like stuck with me. And I it's, as you can see, man. And yeah, man. So you're the originator of that.
I love it. Exactly. I think that was also because that was during the winter practices. And then during the winter practices, the kids aren't in school, but they're going to practice. And a lot of times, they get to sleep in, or they have to go to grandma's house, or they have to get more hours at their part-time job or whatever. But I was trying to just drill in, like, that's cool, man. You got a lot of stuff going on, but just find a way to get to practice, because that's, in my opinion, for what I found, it's a safe place for a lot of people. And sometimes it's the only consistent thing. And if you can remember, and if they can see that that's that consistent thing, it just keeps them focused and a little centered. Because when you're a teenager, there's so much chaos that's going on. You're going through puberty, right? You're like dating, or you're not even in that area yet.
And then now with the advancement of technology, they have freaking video games, social media. Like we all have, I think we can kind of attest to this, that we kind of struggle with, I'm me and, in my late 20s, I find myself for nothing just scrolling on my phone, seeing what my friends are up to, seeing who people I know are up to. Yeah. And there's so many distractions that can pull you away from that environment as far as wrestling practice goes, man. And but yeah, man, that was such a good time. I was fortunate enough to coach be side by side with you, side by side with Jay, side by side with Pete Gomez. And so, just those three names right there, those are, in my opinion, some of the best coaches in the area, man. There's not definitely. There's not too many coaches I would rank above you three, man. And I had the fortunate opportunity to, learn under you guys, not only as a youngster, but as a coach, man. And I think one of the philosophies that I got and that really worked for me was, from you and Pete, where we're not coaching wrestlers, we're coaching people. We're coaching young adults with values, and if we can coach a good person innately, they're going to be good at pretty much everything they do, or they're going to put their best effort into everything they do. That's if you do it right. And And if one of those things so happens to be wrestling, we did our job.
Yeah. Or develop the skill set through wrestling and taking that same skill set, of determination, right? Showing up when you don't want to show up.
Wrestling or cutting weight.
Cutting weight,
trying to practice on an empty stomach.
Oh yeah,
dehydrated at some time. At some point. But I mean, what's that Dan Gable quote? Once you've wrestled, everything else in life is easy.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's if people wonder like how we're so like where our determination comes from and our work ethic, I think you're like me when we could say that a lot of that came from the sport of wrestling.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, man. And I know you did some like motivational speaking for the National High School Coaches Association, man. And I know I can tell that a lot of the stuff that you talk about that you learned and were able to apply to life, that you talked about a lot of that as well.
Yeah, one of the great things is that for me, I was able to take wrestling. It got me to college. I got a scholarship. And then from there, I got in the movie industry and became a consultant choreographer for Nike films, commercials, Adidas. I was an actor in a Disney movie.
Spooner.
Yeah, Spooner. 1989, I think it came out. And it was actually the first Disney Channel movie.
No kidding.
Yeah, the first ever. So when the Disney Channel first came out, its own cable channel, Spooner was like, and we make our own Disney Channel movies. So it's made for the Disney Channel.
Like a Disney original.
Yeah, like a Disney original. So I'm a Disney actor. It's kind of funny, but you're like, dude, you're a Disney actor? I go, yeah, but I didn't know there was like a thing. Like, but on your resume, it's a big deal if you're a Disney actor, right?
Oh, yeah, okay.
So
I didn't know Spooner was a Disney movie.
Yeah. So that came out in 1989, and then I ended up just sticking in the film industry. But the reason why I became a motivational speaker for the National High School Coaches Association is because Bob Ferraro, who is the executive director, and his son, Bobby Jr., they created the organization because Bobby Jr. was a 4-time state champ in Pennsylvania and in wrestling. And they didn't really have like a national tournament. So the dad made one. Like, I want my son to, he's a 4-time state champ, but let's get him against other state champs.
Right.
Just like, not in an ego way, but just like, hey, wouldn't it be great
competition?
For all the kids to take it to the next level. So that was the first one that they did in 89. And it's still going on to this day. But from there, they grew into doing the volleyball tournaments, football tournaments, basketball tournaments, like you name it.
It's that ripple effect.
Yeah, and they just kept going. And now they're huge. It's like the NCAA, but for high school sports.
Right.
So not everybody knows the organization because it's at the elite level where you kind of if you go to the tournament, you're going to like the national championships or an elite, right? But not every team here or anywhere really across the country, if you're not elite at that level, you may not go to their events because you haven't qualified, whatever. But that is the goal for these elite teams. So my relationship with the organization is, of course, I've had a couple of wrestlers compete. Recently, we had Gali Garcia from Sure. She took 4th. She had a dislocated shoulder, but she still plays 4th in the nation, 2nd in state from Sure. And then Sean Kim, who's a state champ at Sure, and David Wakasaka, state champ at Sure. Jose Ruano, he took 2nd in state, and then he qualified. So we've had some. Oh, and then Steve Martinez, who actually took 2nd in state and 3rd in the nation, All-American.
Some names.
Yeah, so we've had some good athletes. So I've been going there as a coach, right? But one day I got a call from them because they saw one of my films that I did. I did a film called Underdog. That was a comedy about like a little chunky kid.
My favorite one.
Yeah, that gets beat all the time. It's funny. But
it's cute,
that premiered at Tribeca Film Festival. It was at AFI Fest, like the major film festivals, right? And they came across the film. Then they called me with it, like, hey, we see that you're promoting the sport and you've done a lot of things in film. We want to meet you. So when they met me, I told them my story about, how I joined wrestling because I was an athlete growing up. I played soccer, which was my major sport, and then baseball and football. But because I was small, by the time I got to high school, I was like a tiny guy. I was like at least a half a foot shorter than everybody.
You were probably 100 pounds.
Totally. And then also it's funny because when I did play football at Sure, I didn't play the whole season because I would get like knocked out, like I would get hit and I would get hurt.
Right.
So I sat out. Then I joined wrestling my junior year in high school. But because I had played football and soccer and baseball, I already had a physique of an athlete, right? So anyway, I went from wrestling. And then when I went to Rio Hondo College to wrestle, that's when I got involved. The coach said, hey, they're making a movie about wrestling. And it turned out to be the Disney movie, Spooner. So from there, I kept in the film industry after I did Spooner. And the National High School Coaches Association had basically researched what I did. And they're like, hey, that's pretty inspiring to be like from East LA, and have a career in film. But I was going to college to become an educator as well, right?
Right.
So they just liked my energy, and they literally met me. I think they're from Pennsylvania, so they're on the East Coast per se, and they were in LA for something. So we had lunch, we talked, and they said, you know what? We want you to do something with us. We don't know yet, but we just want you involved in our organization. So, but they didn't know it specifically. They just like, we like your energy. So they called me maybe like 2 months later. They said, hey, Henry, why don't you come down and work with us for a month? And by at that time, I wasn't teaching. I was in between teaching jobs and my film projects, because what I'll do is I'll teach for 1 or 2 or 3 years full time. But if I have a film project, then I'll take a year or two off and then travel the world with my films or work on the projects, right? So I just happened to be like in between gigs, and they said, well, we'll just pay you a month's salary. Just come on over. We don't know what to do, but just come on over. So I literally like live with them in their house. They have this big, like, I don't know, 5-bedroom house. And then their guest house has like 3 bedrooms, right? In Pennsylvania. And it's a big house. They got a big giant indoor pool, all that. So anyways, I went there and I shadowed Bob Ferraro. And he said, like, hey, just shadow me and just be like an executive with me. I don't know, but I don't know what it was.
We'll find something for you.
We'll just find something for you. And I wasn't looking for a job with them. He just wanted me to be involved with this organization. But he was paying me, whatever. So we had this one meeting by these guys that came in. And they had this idea. I don't know. You don't even know the story, but you'll like the story. So these 2 brothers come in. And they said, hey, we have this idea where we want to go across the country and we want to live stream wrestling matches.
Okay.
And then from there, we want to go to like, MMA and basketball and football and just do live streams. And the company that they were living out of.
What year was this? What year was this?
This is in 2007.
Ahead of its time, because that's like the thing now, live streaming all these events, right?
Okay. So I don't know if you heard of a company called Flow Wrestling.
Right, yeah.
Right?
Maybe. Right.
It's like Flow Wrestling, Flow Volleyball, Flow MMA, Flow everything, right?
Grappling.
Yeah, so I was in that first meeting with them. They're like, we have this idea. What do you guys think? Blah, blah.
I didn't know that story.
Yeah,
because you were involved. Well, so now I know Flow. King of the Cage. This is like when MMA was like underground.
Yeah.
Underground. This is what on the beach, right?
Yeah. Well, I had so wow, my life's pretty interesting, right?
A little bit.
Like my brother Joe the other day says, you're pretty out there, and I go, what do you mean by that? He goes, not in a bad way. He goes like, but you're like way out there.
Your foot. Hey, that's a good thing.
And I go, but what does that mean? He goes, you just do a lot of stuff, right? And I'm like, okay. I don't know if that's bad or good. He's like, it's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. You're just out, going, doing things, right? But yeah, so Larry Landless, okay, Larry's a local guy here in LA. He's currently coaching at Mark Keppel.
Right.
Larry's kind of like the godfather of like Mark Keppel High School wrestling, right? Because he was there when they took second in state. He was working with, coaching with Coach Marshall, who's acting at Milliken now.
Right.
But they took second in state. Larry was one of the assistants there. And also Larry did coach Anthony Valencia, who was a national champ.
Right.
In 93. So Larry, he was more at that time when the UFC first came out. Larry was more into kickboxing and it wasn't even called MMA yet, but it was just kind of like, he was
cage fighting.
Yeah. He was like, and that wasn't developed just yet, but Larry was more of the kickboxing kind of, I was just a wrestler.
Right.
But when we would go during summer league, Larry would have us kids there, right? And, being a teenager, we would just find stuff to do. So we would just go work out it because Sure didn't have its own summer league team. So we'd Sheldon Kim, if anybody listening out there, Sheldon Kim and Sean Kim, they both made it to the Olympic trials twice as brothers. So Sheldon was my kind of training partner in high school and one of my best friends. So Sheldon and I and like my buddy Darren Manabog and a couple of the guys, we'd go with Larry to go work out. But then when I graduated and MMA or the UFC came out, I was already working in the movie industry. So Larry said, hey, let's do some tournaments, right? Because he knew I could organize tournaments and things like that. So we started doing these literally underground, like get the map at the gas station, right? And the biggest one so we did one at the Pasadena Civic Auditorium, which was really big, maybe like 1,000 people, but for an underground situation.
That was big at the time.
Yeah, it was big at the time. And then I worked with another guy by the name of Joe Charles. Joe Charles was a UFC fighter. He's a judo guy, and he fought in the tournament when it was like legit different disciplines against each other.
Right. It was boxer versus kickboxer versus wrestler versus karate.
And so Joe Charles, he does a boot camp in Venice Beach. So if you ever see that guy, like he's always out there training people. So Joe came to me, he said, hey, Henry, you want to do a tournament? I'm like, sure, like whatever. So we literally got an octagon on the sand at Venice Beach.
That I do remember.
And then we had guys like Boss Rutten, Frank Shamrock, of course, Ken Shamrock. Man, it was amazing. And then Tito Ortiz, he was still in college. So he wanted to get into the UFC and he was talking to them. So he would fight in the tournaments and then he would get his his reel together, So it's funny because looking back now, that was just like something fun to do.
Right.
And Larry was getting married at that time. So even if we made money, I told Larry hey, just keep the money, keep my name off the paperwork, because it was illegal, right?
Right.
And then one day I created a company called Modern Gladiator Productions, and my tagline, so what Modern Gladiator Productions was, it was, since we had all these fighters coming into town for a fight on Saturday, I would host seminars on Sunday at Sure High School because I had the keys.
Right.
So Ken Shamrock would be in town.
Get him in there.
And then the next day I'll be like, hey, Ken, you want to make like $2,000 on a Sunday? He's like, what? I go, just do like an hour or two. So we would be promoting the seminar during the fight. And I had of course, Boss Rutten, Tito did one for us, a whole list. But I was involved really heavily in MMA. But one day, the principal of Sure at that time was Terrence Devney, and he was a mentor of mine. And he loved me to death. So one day he called me in the office. He goes, look, I know you're an entrepreneur. I know what you're doing. He goes, he wasn't upset at all.
No, for sure.
He goes, but what it is, it's illegal and it's not sanctioned.
And you're doing this at the school. So if the cops come, it's all on you and you're probably going to go to jail. He goes, but you are in school right now, because I was going to Whittier College at the time to become an educator. And he goes, you're going to school. He goes, so you may not make it to become a teacher if you get popped doing this stuff. He goes, so you have to be careful. He didn't tell me not to do it. He goes, I'm just telling you, be careful. You're a doctor, you're doing great. But if you get in trouble, then you may mess up your whole career. And I walked away. No hard feelings with anybody. I just said, you know what? I got to focus on school. Right.
Because that's going to be my longevity at least. And at the same time, I was young too. So I was, you're just trying to figure yourself out. So I actually applied to the sheriff department at that time as well. And it wasn't something I wanted to do, but one of my buddies, he was applying, because back then you can just show up and take a written test. And if you pass that written test, then you get a call back for an interview or, a psych evaluation. So I ended up passing this written test and kept getting callbacks to keep going. So by the time you know it, I was training at the training facility right there on Telegraph. And I was like a team leader on their training workouts, whatever. And I got accepted and so I could have been a sheriff deputy. So I went from like this guy doing the MMA stuff
to a
stopping
educator.
that, got accepted to the sheriff department. That, of course, the sheriff training, right?
Right, the process.
So I got accepted to go to the academy, but at the same time, I got accepted to transfer to Whittier, and I had to make a decision. And it was great because I had options, and I had a lot of energy. I meant well. I was coaching, so I ended up transferring and going to Whittier, and I became a teacher, But the whole time I was in college, I was working in the mixed martial arts, doing events, doing the Nike stuff.
Getting yourself out there.
Yeah,
like
totally.
Your brother, like your brother said, man. It's crazy because like knowing where, the environment that you grew up around, I mean, we're from the same family. So it's I have a little bit of an idea of what it was like growing up for you, but I didn't know you were in the process of becoming a sheriff.
Yeah, interesting.
I didn't know that either.
A lot of people don't know that.
My dad know that? I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. That's hilarious.
Come to a family barbecue. We got like 15 felons right here.
Right, 15. You're outnumbered, man.
Yeah, how many points for a felon?
Right, all collective. Yeah, I didn't know you're gonna be a sheriff though, man. But that's incredible. So you're talking about like meeting up with guys like Tito Ortiz and Boston. Man, one of the stories that not too many of my friends believe me is my going into my senior year of high school, we were at one of the screenings for Beyond the Mat, and Henry Cejudo showed up.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember hanging out with him afterwards at Denny's?
Yeah.
Yeah. One of my favorite stories.
Wearing his gold medal?
His medal and his ring. He let me try on his ring. And that was one of my, I was right there eating my lumberjack slam. And he's giving me advice, asking me about my season coming up. And really cool story, man. That's like a sneak peek of like what my summers look like hanging out with you, because that's what I did a lot during my high school summer years.
Yeah.
Hang out with you at your loft. It would be on set for whatever project you were working on, and that's what my summers consisted of. Was what are we doing this year with Ken? And one of my favorite stories or one of my favorite memories is hanging out with the world champion wrestler at Denny's. Just him asking me about my season, what's going on, what are my expectations, what's my favorite move. Oh, well, we can clean this up, do this right here. And but it's just a beautiful like experience, because how many kids in this area can say that they hung out with the world champion Olympic gold medalist, who is now like considered probably one of the greatest MMA fighters of all time. And I remember that when he was just talking to us, he was thinking, I'm thinking about doing MMA.
Yeah. Now he at that time he wanted to do boxing.
Oh,
so he was pretty set on, I'm going to do boxing and MMA. I'm thinking about that, but in his mind, for some reason, MMA really didn't like resonate yet with him. Right? It was just that era where boxing was still
the moneymaker,
and it was kind of how would I say this? I don't mean to offend anyone, but like phasing out a little bit. Right. So he wanted to be a boxer, and then the MMA conversation was like, oh, look into that too, But I think as time went on, he realized that MMA was
the right move for sure, And between him and then Kurt Angle, hanging out with Kurt Angle, that was like one of my, I grew up a wrestling fan, so that's like one of the guys that's, you know what I mean? He was one of the best of all time. Ken Shamrock, Randy Couture.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Uriah Faber.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? And these are like, I'm in high school, like around these guys who are the best at their craft, man. And
and I'm over here like, hey, just come over here.
Yeah.
And then,
hey, Ray, come over here. This is Uriah Faber. And I'm just shell shocked, like, hey, you know who this guy is? Like, dude, do I know who this guy is? Crazy, man. But that's
what? I've never thought about it from your perspective.
Yeah, I'm 15, 16 years old.
I'm just like doing what I do, right? And so it just so happens that I find my way with all these people.
All these connections.
I know how to just keep it going. But I think the reason is, like, going back to this Disney movie, I became the consultant in the sport.
Right.
And so that event when Randy Couture was there, what's his name was there too?
Faber was there.
Yeah, but the Filipino guy too, Munoz, right?
Mark Munoz
was there.
Well, that was the East versus West Coast.
Yeah, though that was the NCAA.
It was an All-Star match.
All-Star Classic.
That was what they're trying to do to save the Fullerton program.
Yeah, so the Fullerton program, they didn't have the funds, so this event happens every year, but they just happened to
host it
at Fullerton and use the money
to put into the program.
To put into the wrestling program. Now, here's how I got involved. So I got a phone call from, who was it? From, I don't know if it was Jim Townsend. Jim Townsend's, we did a movie, the Disney movie together. He was a referee in the movie. He became a movie producer. Was it Jim or was it Mike Moyer? Mike Moyer is the executive director of, yes, it was Mike. Mike's the executive director of the National Wrestling Coaches Association. They do a bunch of events as well. And so Mike called me and he's like, Henry, we're going to be on the West Coast and we want to know if we could broadcast this on TV, right? So I'm like, okay, cool. So then I have to brainstorm, right?
Right.
So what I did is I set a meeting up. There was an event that they were hosting, like a meet and greet. But during that event, I had a meeting with Dan Gable, okay, Billy Baldwin, Mike Moyer, and then the gentleman
Mike Moyer. That name sounds familiar.
He's the executive director of the organization.
Gotcha. I've seen that name before.
Yeah, and then I brought in Christian Holiday. Christian Holiday, he wrestled at Fullerton. So here was the plan. I called Christian. Christian has his own production company where he makes like commercials, like, you know, those car commercials, those quick 30-second, like Toyota's having a sale, right? He makes like 100 of those a year. He's got like his team of editors and his template, and so he just pumps those out. But he also produces like events as well. Well, he doesn't produce events, but he shoots events as well.
Right.
So I called Christian. I said, "Hey, you know that Fullerton, your team is going to be like canceled, right?" He's like, "What?" So I told him the story. I said, "So I'm going to be meeting with Dan Gable and with Mike and Billy Baldwin, and they want to know if we could broadcast, right?" So I literally became executive producer of this, just like that, right? So what we did was we shot with like 10 cameras. So the live event was already happening. So when we brought in the film production component of it, and then we did broadcast it on the Big Ten network, you know. And I mean, me thinking about, whoa, I had something broadcast like
on the Big Ten network,
Big Ten network, as executive producer, but that happened just because we all wrestle and love the sport,
and didn't want to see one of the top local programs.
Yeah, exactly.
Go down the drain.
Division I program.
You know? Right.
But that was a great experience, and then that's where all the celebrities came and wanted to support the event. So that was an action-packed. It was a great dual match, but also just to see everybody that came to support was just amazing.
Right. It was the top of the top. I'm saying and that day alone, it was Randy Couture, I know, Mark Munoz, Uriah Faber. That's all that's coming to mind right now, at least on my end.
Billy Baldwin, he's an actor.
Right, Billy Baldwin. That's right. And yeah, just that's what our freaking summers look like, man. You know, staying in your loft, hanging out with you and the film crew and just seeing what you guys did. You said you're working on the film festival this year?
Yeah.
How's that going?
So, so as a filmmaker, you know, all these independent filmmakers, the objective of a film festival is to, it's like a music festival, right?
Right.
Just a bunch of bands play at a music festival and then they have parties and hopefully they get discovered by a record label. Now, a film festival is that, but for film.
Right.
So let's just say someone makes a movie about their dog or a cat, then they want that to be seen by someone to get potential work, right? So you submit it to festivals, and the festivals will review them, and then hopefully select the films, and then rent a theater. So we literally rent like the Regal Cinemas at LA Live, and then we rent some of the theaters on Broadway, the old theaters that were built like in the 20s, and we have world premieres of movies. And then the objective is to showcase them. Hopefully the filmmakers will get like discovered, and make a deal, right? So some of the feature films, an example would be one time, we had a film with George Lopez and Ty Diggs, and nobody had seen it yet. So HBO called me and they said, "Hey, we want to meet the filmmaker. Can we have a meeting with you before you show the film?" And they said, okay, we're looking for this, this, and that. So they kind of briefed me on what they were looking for. And then after the film screened, I made an introduction to the filmmaker. But that's the goal: is you want to move these projects like forward.
Right.
So as a filmmaker, we just we're like independent artists trying to get discovered, trying to get distribution. But I found that the best way to network is to host parties. Because then everyone knows your name, everyone RSVPs to you, and then you know who's coming to the party, right?
Right.
So the film screenings, for me, it's just a way for me to, keep my films moving.
Network.
And to network. And then, make a little bit of money, bringing in like sponsors
Having
or whatever.
a good time, by the way, too.
Yeah. So it just... That's the way my brain works. Is how do I just keep momentum going? How to keep momentum going? And
the ability to sustain all that. Let's back to square one. Started from wrestling, man.
Yeah.
That type of workload that wrestling, puts on you, physically, mentally. Not anyone can do it, man. It's a small percentage. Like you figure you're at Montebello or Shore High School where there's 3,000 students. How many kids are on the wrestling team and stick it out?
Yeah,
maybe 40, maybe 50, if that. You know what I mean? And like that's a small percentage, man. I don't know the exact number, but it takes a special type of student athlete to be able to not only stick out a practice, let alone the whole season. And I think you and I, can attribute that. My workload is crazy. I've been up since 5 a.m, right? Today, working with clients, doing programming, setting this up with you. I have to get a workout, and after, I'm booked after that from I think 4 through 8 tonight.
Wow.
So it's just, these days, and it's I'm lucky this is all stuff that I really enjoy doing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This is like what I'm passionate about. So I don't consider it work, but we'll call it the workload to be able to sustain that. I wasn't born with this. This was drilled into me, showing up at practice every single day in a heated room, trying to break my friend's will while he's trying to break mine. And this, we do live wrestling.
Especially working out in the summer when it's extremely hot, and even though you have the doors open, but if there's no breeze, or even in the winter, we put the heaters on, and we're on a daily. Every wrestler should be at least losing 3 pounds.
So I was losing like 5 or 6.
Yeah, I know. But my point is this. Just by being on the wrestling team, if you're not the hardest worker, just by going, if the coach says do this and you just do everything that they ask, you should be cutting at least 3 pounds at practice.
Right.
You gain it back in water or whatever that night, but it's the standard, right? 1 pound or 2 pounds at least at one practice if you just go through the motions, you know. But that's just how rigorous, that
our everyday practices, man.
Yeah,
and, I've seen some of the biggest, baddest football players try out, and after a day, fuck this. I don't need this.
Yeah.
Why? Why? I know they can, and these are guys who are running full speed at each other, making freaking this crazy contact. You know what I mean? To not be able to make it through a wrestling, I've seen it, several times. And wrestlers are usually the weirdos, but those weirdos usually stick out the practices, stick out the season, and essentially they excel. They really excel at the sport. But yeah, all this, the ability for me to, do what I do, the ability, for you to do what you do and do it, not only just do it, but at a high level.
Yeah.
It's
directly. Yes. And I like that you said that, and keep it at a standard, right?
At a standard.
Like I just told you before I came here, you asked me what was I doing. I was like, well, I was just writing a proposal for a $25,000, project that someone else is going to fund. So, I have to edit my words, and
right.
But that's like par for the course. Like literally, that's what's on my desk. And other times, like it's funny because sometimes I'm quoted as saying, "Are you having $1 million conversation?"
I love that. Yeah, that's $1 million can. Yeah,
yeah. Because one time, I think I was telling our nephews Manny and James, they were making noise, and I said, "Dude, I'm having $1 million conversation right now."
Just stuck with you.
Chill out, dude. I'm having an important call right now. But I mean, that literally is part of my day, right? So it's an ongoing joke. But when you're a film producer, like, yes, it's like, what's the budget? What's the this? What's the that, right? And so my point is that, like, yeah, that's actually a reality. And keeping your work to a certain standard, also just kind of going for it, right?
You just got to go for it, man.
Just going for it, like in wrestling, right? You step on the mat, and you're out there, and there's an audience, or there's an odd audience, or maybe not be an audience, but you're gonna duke it out with this person in front of you. You know,
there can't be any hesitation because the split seconds matter. You know what I mean? It's the reaction time, especially when you're at that higher level of wrestling. You know, like where you were in that practice environment where, like you said, your practice partner was a freaking state qualifier, state placer.
Yeah,
you know, state finalist. You want to go even deeper with it. So, like, you were exposed to that standard at a young age. Like, hey, this is what the best in the state works at. Hey, fucking work up to it or get the fuck out of here. Yeah. Essentially.
I kept showing up.
Man. And that's essentially like, that's pretty much what the movie Underdog's about. You you get your ass kicked, you got to get used to getting your ass kicked in the sport, like wrestling, which is, like for me, I have this saying, and, my friends and clients think I'm crazy. Like, if this doesn't suck, and if I don't feel like I'm getting my ass kicked, it's not for me because it's not challenging me. It's like everyone has to go through it. You have to go through at least the first year. If you're just freshly, you're starting off in wrestling, like you're gonna get your ass kicked, and that's what I think a lot of people can't comprehend and they just can't stand. It's just like, why am I getting my ass kicked?
Yeah, like for example, if you're playing basketball, it's not often that a team goes through a whole season and doesn't win a game in basketball.
Right.
Because there's a lot of dynamics, right? You're going to win a couple games, like 50-50 is kind of like an average type, right? But in wrestling, you could lose 40 matches and not win, but you could get close or get pinned fast in all of them, but you still show up.
Right.
One of the wrestlers that happened to was Brian Burnett. Brian Burnett, I think he graduated like in 95 at Sure. He lost every single match his freshman year. He got pinned every single match, but he kept coming back.
Stuck it out.
And then his sophomore year, after his sophomore season, he went to, I think, Jay Robinson's intensive camp. He came back a beast.
Came back a different,
Then his senior year, he was an Eagle Scout, and he took fourth in state, All-American, okay? And now I think he's a lineman, and he's has a wife and kids, and he's doing great. But that's just a great example. Another mini story that I wanted to bring back up is the San Gabriel Valley Kids Wrestling Club. A lot of the kids became successful wrestlers because the kids club was from 5 years all the way to
like 12, 13.
Like 12, 13, 14, right before high school. But one of the wrestlers that was on your team was Tatiana Suarez. And she was she joined the team.
Forget that I was teammates with Tati. Like, it's like I'm sorry to cut you off.
Yeah,
I forgot I was teammates with an animal, beast.
Her older brother, Chris Lopez, he's coached, went to Northview, coached at Northview. I think he's a 2-time state champ at Northview. And then, of course, as a coach, like, legendary girls team, they were state champs and all that as well. So she's the older brother. Oh, he's the older brother of Tatiana. So while he was on the team, Tatiana wasn't even old enough yet. She was just rolling around. And then when she did become old enough, she was wrestling, but girls wrestling did not exist.
Right.
So she was just
wrestling like boys.
Yeah,
she was a girl.
But she had like a killer headlock. So she would toss everybody around. And then when she went to high school at Northview, they didn't have a girls team yet. So she was wrestling the boys.
Cracked the boys lineup too.
Yeah, she did. But when it got to CIF and all that, it's a different story because they didn't have the girls.
Well, I think they might have had like
not when she was on the team yet.
Girls CIF though. I think they might have had girls CIF because I remember Teeny. We had Christina Perez at Montebello who was a stud. She wrestled at a girls CIF, but it was like way up north. It was like maybe I could be wrong, but I want to say it was like a CIF before the actual CIF, before it became sanctioned like the way it is now. Yeah. But I remember Teeny having a few, because Teeny was a stud too, having quite a few run-ins with Tati, and Tati, kind of just did her thing with Teeny. And but yeah, just an animal, man.
But it was great to see her transition into MMA, right? And then she won the Ultimate Fighter, and now she has a contract, but she's kind of been like plagued with a little bit of injuries. So hopefully she gets better, but she's a contender for the title, which is pretty cool.
Amazing. Yeah, I forgot she was my teammate.
Story. Yeah.
I forget she was my team. How can I forget that? Like,
Isn't that cool?
You brought a couple things to my attention today, man, that I've completely just, I forgot about. You said something a while ago about just going for it, man.
Yeah.
And how much of that is that just like, how much of life is just going for it? Just fuck it. I'll deal with the consequences or whatever after.
You know how many companies I started in my life and failed? Like I used to have a clothing company, like, because a lot of times people, there's kind of like the basic like companies that are easy to start that people get motivated about, right? So I started a clothing company. Oh, here's a mini cool story. So I went to Costa Rica, right, on a couple of surf trips because the waves are good there. Went with some buddies, and the slogan they have for the country is called "Pura Vida."
Right.
Means pure life.
I wonder where I've heard that before.
Yeah, exactly.
I wonder where I've heard that.
So they use it like it's like aloha, right? So if you're passed out, they'll walk by and say, "Hey, pura vida," or if you're drunk, "Hey, pura vida," or you're praying, "Pura vida." So it's pure life, life to the fullest, but it's subjective to whatever your interpretation of that term is, right?
Right.
So I like that term. So I was going to start a clothing company. It turned out that someone already had one, but it wasn't famous yet or popular yet. But in the process, I was teaching at South Alumni High School, and this is like in 1999, 2000, and I ended up taking some kids to like skate parks, and we made stickers, and they were just kind of like my little team that were promoting it.
Right.
But one of the kids actually started his own t-shirt company called Skate Life Clothing, and his name's Ryan Storms. Ryan actually has a big following on social media. He's one of those guys that like he gets products from like the studios, products from like Marvel. He's one of those social media guys that like, hey, look at he gets one of his things is he wore a new pair of shoes every day for a year, but he was like sponsored by like Nike,
different companies, right?
Whatever, right? But Ryan was one of the kids that I would take to skate parks, and he ended up making his own skate line. But here's a great thing is that like every school has their like little how would I say classes, like the classes that are like industry type classes or industrial classes, like
the shop classes,
right? Well, like in Montebello Unified, they have a great pathway for like culinary arts, right? Then they have one for computer aided drafting.
Yeah, they have architecture, health,
and auto mechanics, health,
and then
nursing,
law enforcement.
Right? Yeah, law enforcement, right?
Right.
Well, at South Amani, they happen to have one for silk screen. Right.
Oh, really?
So Ryan learned silk screening in high school.
Wow.
And then I was making my own shirts, right?
Kind of had a little
and
partnership.
So what we didn't partner at that time, but he learned silk screening at South Alumni High School, and he actually then from there he went to a local school that was teaching graphic arts. So he learned graphic arts. So he makes money in graphic arts, and he designs his own shirts, and then he sells them, at skate shops. Right. So he has a legit business. But it's a great little story because it was the high school that gave him that opportunity, showed him how to do it, and he bought his own equipment. It wasn't as expensive as starting a restaurant per se, right? So he's been selling his shirts for like 15 years now.
Wow.
Or longer. His company's not huge, but it's enough.
It's sustainable.
He's still
pays
making
the bills.
them. Yeah,
pays the bills. Does what it has to do.
But that's a good little story of just kind of how the right resources, right?
Well,
so my company, I had to stop because of a trademark, whatever. But I like the term still. But that's like one of like 25 companies. Like every year I got something. I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and I'm sure I'm trying to sell someone something all the time, right? But it got to a point now where okay, look, I'm good at this and I'm good at this. Now
let's stick with those. Like the meat and potatoes.
Like I'm not going to sell coffee. But I'm good at these things now.
Right. I got a story for you, man. When this was starting up, most people around me thought this was like not a joke, but it was just like, oh, little gym. You know what I mean? And I remember when I first started pitching the idea to my family up in the front house, their idea of it was, oh, this guy's just gonna have his friends over. They're gonna hang out. You know what I mean? It wasn't until they saw like clients line up hour after hour throughout the day where they're like, oh shit, like you got clients. It's like, yes, what have I been trying to tell you? But, you know, there's support. There's like, hey, I hope you do well. And then there's support.
Yeah.
And when you and Larry showed up, like, it was like, I can't thank you enough for this. Like,
that was a surprise too.
Yeah. You just showed up. You're like, okay, we need to get paint. We need to get this. We need to get that. Cause this was just a plain, like, backyard concrete. The walls were all jacked up. The patio was all, you know, the paint was all jacked. And you literally showed up one day out of nowhere. Hey, I heard you doing something. Oh, okay, cool. Okay, we need paint. We need to get lights. We need to get this. And I can't thank you enough for that.
That was cool.
Really cool, man. And like, so the gym looks the way it does. Mostly, a lot of it is attributed to you and Larry, man. Just showing up, and you know, I'm lucky. Larry's one of those guys that could paint a 24 pack. You know what I mean? He's one of those guys.
He's always down.
He's always down, man. And you guys just rolled up, and it was such a blessing because I'm trying to juggle, you know, a few different things at once, and such a help, man. But like
that's a cool story.
There's support, and then there's support.
Yeah, exactly.
And you told me, like, from firsthand experience, like, you went through the, you know, whatever, buddy, just, you know, do your thing. You didn't really have that kind of support, man. And obviously you wanted to be there for me. You wanted to be something for me that you didn't have growing up. Mm-hmm. And I can't thank you enough for that, man.
Well, you're welcome.
You know what I mean? You know, and all these stories exposing me to some of these world-class athletes, and, you know, as a kid, to being on set for movies, to giving me, you know, talks on the side about, you know, school, girls. You know, this is like, I spent a lot of my high school years with you, man. Hanging out. A lot of it, man.
With you, and it's great because I got to spend time with you and with your brother, and of course Raylene, my goddaughter. Mm-hmm.
So many different, like, dynamics though. Like, it's such different, like.
And my main thing is just keep going. You know, when you're a teenager, like. Teenagers are all messed up. Like everyone, even if you can have the perfect family, just your body's growing. You're making friends. There's jealousy. There's dating. There's grades. All that, you know. But just to spend time with you guys, and it's you guys even hearing my lectures, right? You know, it wasn't.
We had no choice.
Yeah, we would talk, you know. But my main thing was just get through your teenage years. Just get through high school. Just get through them. Then when you turn 18, 19, then you start making your own decisions. And then you'll see a different perspective, you know. But
figure stuff out.
With all the things that I've done, my main thing is I don't know what I'm doing, you know. And once you can just kind of own that, like, I do not know what I'm doing, but I know these things, and I'm going to keep sharpening my tools, and I'm going to keep showing up.
Keep growing.
So when you were making this back here, the first video I saw, of course, I'm a filmmaker, right? I was like, okay, so I could see his ceiling, and it was white, but it looks real dirty, right?
Right.
And then I see he's got like a black theme going on, but it's not consistent. So I showed Larry the video, and I just said, let's go help him out, dude. Like, let's make it look cool. And he's like, yeah, cool. So you didn't even really, I think I just called you. I was like, hey, dude, we're going to help you paint real quick.
Yeah.
I said, is there a window? Yeah. I said, is there a window of time where, like, we could just come in for like an hour or two? And you're like, yeah, from this time to this time. But you had no idea how much we were going to do, right?
No.
So we just did it.
Well, actually, you didn't even tell me. You just like, hey, what are you doing right now? Like, nothing. Could we go right? Could I stop by real quick? Yeah, sure. You just said you wanted to check out the gym.
Okay.
That's all you said. And like, you showed up, and right when you walked in, okay, we got to get paint. We got to get lights. And that's like, it would have taken me forever to do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just to have the labor, the time to do the labor myself.
Yeah. And it would have probably been thought of, like, but not done for a couple of months.
Right.
You know? But that's the way I am whenever, like, any of my friends start a new business. I always say, look, I have 1 or 2 days that I'll give you free labor. I go, because you need it, right? But I've also been in that situation. Like with my film festival, I have 30 interns. Like right now I have an intern that literally came from Germany to just be a part of Hollywood. But from Germany, he had to find a place to stay. He had to get his own transportation. He's feeding himself. But he's an 18-year-old kid. Right. And he's saying, can I just be in your circle, do what you do, because I have activity, right? So he's been on like 5 movie sets in the past 3 weeks. But it's because he showed up. He's offering stuff for free. Like, I'll do whatever you want. Okay, cool. Then I go to my filmmakers or the studio that we have in downtown. I'm like, hey, this kid, wants to work for free. Because he's going to go back home to Germany now and say, dude, I was in like like all these movies, all this, all that. But just to be there and just remain active.
That's so inspiring, man. An 18-year-old kid to go halfway across the world to a place he's never been, to do in a field he's trying to get. That's hustle right there, man.
Exactly.
So if you're like in your late teens to early 20s, listen to this fucking story.
Exactly.
Like not only is that a risk, that's just straight fucking hustle right there.
Exactly.
That's inspiring,
and I have 30 interns, okay?
Right.
And they're coming from China, Korea, like all over the place, Australia, right?
See, if there's no opportunities, create them.
That's exactly
create the opportunity.
And we live in Los Angeles, right? Mm-hmm. You know how many people don't take advantage
of their opportunities,
of all the opportunities that are here? Like number one, okay, the movie industry is right here, but so is every other industry. You have access to everything, right? So when I see people that, you know, they're not hustling,
they're dying.
In my opinion, then that's on you, man.
Yeah.
Like, that's cool. I look like a fool all the time because I'm doing this, I'm doing that. I'm making presentations all the time. You know, I've had so many businesses fail, but then some succeed, right? But I'm like walking around juggling and, you know, dancing and singing. But that's because I see opportunity.
And you're going for it.
And I'm just going for it. I don't know what I'm doing.
Right.
But I know I'm going to keep going.
You're going to figure it out.
I'm going to figure it out.
Find a way.
And find people that are just like me. And we're going to build something together.
Right.
Because you will find people that are doing the things that you're doing. It's just even like if you're not a productive citizen, right, and you're doing drugs, you're always going to find someone to do drugs. You want to drink a beer and smoke a joint, you're always going to find those people that are going to do the things that you want to do. You want to go hiking, you want to do, you know,
cycling,
find a poetry
surfing,
lounge,
right.
Surfing, you'll find people, right? So just guiding my own life, it's like, okay, cool, I don't have the perfect life, but I keep moving and I'm okay with failure because I'm trying to do good things.
And I respect like where you're coming from with that and how you grew up with it, because you didn't grow up in the time of the internet where like you had to literally get out of your house and look for those opportunities. You had to go out there and create those yourself. Now, if I want to be in the fitness industry, I just literally hashtag gym and you see all the access to gyms in the area, you know, hashtag surfing, all the surfers in the area, hashtag whatever. But like you can't like fabricate that kind of hustle. You can't you can't pretend with that. That's a type of hustle that is really hard to come by, man. And you know, and you're about 20 years older than me. Like even in my age demographic, like, you know, I'm in that like middle ground where, you know, I was coming up like maybe around high school. That's really when the internet really started like booming.
What year did you graduate?
10.
Okay.
So that's like, I remember sending the first, like when text messaging became big. I remember like in high school, and I remember like when, you know, like MySpace was the thing, and like that was like middle school for me. So like I'm in like that right in the middle where I grew up, you know, the first like 15, well, we were too poor to afford internet too. You know, we couldn't afford it, you know, so I'm actually kind of lucky that I went the first like 15, 16, 17 years of my life without the access to internet.
Wow.
And it made me like, you know, made me social. I remember the first like ever date that I went on, I had to knock on chick's door. Her dad had to come out and like, hey, can I take, you know, her out?
That's awesome.
And like now all you got to do is I'm outside.
Yeah.
You don't even have to like, it takes a set of balls to like generate that kind of courage and, you know, to walk up and face dad in the face and, hey, I'm trying to take your daughter out. Now you don't even have to do that. Like you can bypass that completely. And like, yeah, and that's really what like a lot of that plays a factor in just like where the internet is. But like for you to go out there and without that resource and just make stuff happen.
I used to have to go to bookstores in Hollywood to read like monologues and memorize them, check out the books and all that, because the internet, it wasn't, you know, it wasn't there yet, right? And I was in a Disney movie, but the internet didn't exist yet. But I would go to the mall and kids would like line up for autographs, like, oh, that guy's, you know, and then I'm signing autographs, right? And then I was delivering pizza. I used to work at the pizza, delivering pizza through college. And then I would sign the pizza boxes, you know, like, oh, you're in the TV right now, whatever, right? But if I had the internet back then, like I probably would have been a bigger a film star, because I would have been able to capitalize on the momentum that I had. But there was really no way to do that. It was like you just get an agent and that's it.
Yep.
But now you can build your own brand. Now you could use your momentum, you know.
There's one thing I tell the kids now whenever I run into them, like that thing that you carry in your hand all the time that you're always on, that will either make you money or ruin your life.
Yeah.
Do what you want with it.
Oh, yeah.
I don't see like this thing now, like where I can't find work. I don't buy that anymore. You can. What are you good at? What are you good at? Drawing? Are you good at art? Are you good at musician? Like music? Are you good at DJing? Are you whatever it is? If you apply the right amount of time and the right amount of hustle, you're gonna figure it out. Something's gonna open up. If it doesn't open up, you're gonna make something happen.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. I'm just like right now with Rayzors Edge in the gym. Like I'm fortunate that like I jumped on and I think like fitness is one of the pillars of like social media right now. It's like you got like entertainment, you got like what's booming right now on social media. A lot of fitness stuff. Like that's like one of the things that everyone wants to like jump on that fitness train. You know, I was lucky that I jumped on it a couple years ago and I tried my best to maximize, getting the name out there and making it what I did when I did it. But yeah, like we're in a world right now where you like have to literally be doing nothing if you're saying there's no opportunity out there and there's nothing out there.
Well, you have to be trying to not be productive. Like literally it takes energy to like not do stuff now.
It really does.
Because you have your phone, okay, how about this? Right now, just by having a phone, you can like do Uber delivery, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So phone in a car and you're good. Mm-hmm. But like 10 years ago, Uber didn't really exist, right? Mm-hmm. Or it isn't the way it is now. So to have not get a job in like 10 years ago, that's kind of understandable.
I get it. Yeah, for sure.
But right now, if you got a cell phone and you can get a car, you can at least do like some deliveries, right? Mm-hmm. If you want to be a musician, you can record your own music. Mm-hmm. Even in film, right? You can get a lighting kit, a basic lighting kit for like under $100, right? And film off your camera and practice. Right? When I started film, we were shooting on 35 millimeter, which is expensive. Yeah. Totally expensive, and then 60 millimeter. We had to process everything and cut it, edit through an editing bay, all that stuff. So it was more difficult to even make a film. Now you can just do it on your phone, right? And then now you can make yourself famous just by getting a OnlyFans page. You know what I mean?
Hey,
it's like how many women like do the OnlyFans thing with like no
good for
skill,
them, though.
like other than like
just being hot or being a chick.
Yeah, and good for them if they can find a way and they're making money and people are paying to see their whatever they're doing. That's on them, but at least they're hustling.
They're making it happen, man. And I'm not mad at them.
Yeah,
I'm not like, hey. Granted, you have to be cautious of the repercussions that may come down the line if you ever have kids and if, your parents get access to that, whatever. Like if you're willing to deal with the ramifications and embarrassment. Well, let's not call it embarrassment. Let's call the ramifications that come with it. Cool.
Yeah, and it's like, I mean, not to talk about this topic too much, but at least they're hustling.
At least they're making it happen.
Because I know a lot of people that they're not hustling.
They're not. They're like you said, they're working hard to do nothing.
Yes, exactly.
And man, like I was gonna say, like I was talking to one of my clients a while back. She was a nice looking chick, and I was like, how easy it would be for you to like just like because she was doing that too, the OnlyFans, like. Make a brand off of that. Like, hey, you know what I mean? Like, and it was like trying to convince her, like, hey, like, make an animation of yourself, put it on, she's like fanny packs. Put it on a fanny pack, sell fanny packs. Like, let's use your platform that you're creating with your OnlyFans and let's turn it into something else. Like, become a brand off of it. Don't just become an entity. And one of the things was like, oh, well, I don't, and she has a pretty big following too. Like, oh, I'm not convinced I could do it. And like, I had to literally walk over to my fucking sign, like, look, like all you gotta do is like take your brand, whatever you've turned your platform into, fucking put it on a shirt, put it on a sign, make it a fucking Instagram profile picture avatar or whatever. Like, there's so much access to free marketing. Like, companies would have to pay crazy amount of money to have their product marketed.
Oh yeah.
Now all you got to do is you have your brand, you have your your entity, post it. Boom. This is what I offer. Boom. Post. This is what we do. Post. You know what I mean? Like one of my favorite, this is a marketing technique that I learned coaching wrestling. If we ever won league, I would make shirts. And what I would do is I would give them to the staff for free. Mm-hmm. You make league championship shirts. That's, says whatever team, league champions, give it to a staff member, give it to the custodian, give it to the cafeteria ladies, give it to the freaking principal, give it to teachers.
Yeah.
Because what happens, that's a recruiting technique that I like.
Yes.
Because now when the incoming freshmen come in, they see, oh, wrestling were league champions last year. Shoot, let me see what that's about. Mm-hmm. And it's a marketing technique.
They're just billboards for you.
Now it's exactly now. I make T-shirts and I'll give some out here and there.
Yeah, hey, just when your clients are wearing them, I see that you always have your clients wearing them for the camera, and that works.
Well, check this out. I had a client who was at the airport in Palm Springs. He's walking through getting his shit checked out. A TSA, one of the TSA guys came up to him and was, "Hey, are you from Montebello?" And the guy goes, No, I'm actually not. My buddy lives pretty far out. He goes, "Oh, I saw you're wearing Ray's shirt."
Wow.
You know what I mean? It's like little
that's
stuff
wonderful.
Like that. Like
yeah.
That's like out of the area too, man. And he was just like, "Oh yeah, I see what Ray's doing." And tell him I said what's up.
That's
crazy,
cool.
huh?
Like,
it's just marketing, man. And it's Montebello's not a big city, so like it's not at all. It's
well, it's big because we're LA City.
We're in LA City, right? But Montebello is it's a pretty tight community. You know what I mean? And like word gets around fast with this stuff, man. And like, oh, it's a pretty cool shirt. What is that? Oh, you're also in shape. Also what I do too. There's like one of my little kids that hangs out with me at Sure. He's one of my little buddies, little stocky little kid. He's always asking me about training. So I give him tips and stuff. So I gave him a free tank top. Hey, dude, just do me a favor. Just wear this, every so often at the gym, and gets a ton of inquiries about it too. Hey, what's Rayzor's Edge? Oh, that's security officer at my school, or parents. Kids have parents. Kids have older sisters, older brothers who went to training. Oh, that's cool. Like, what is that? Oh, one of the security officers. He works out. He has a gym. Oh, that's pretty cool. And I've gotten inquiries from training through that.
Nice.
And it's just different ways of just kind of thinking outside the box.
Yeah.
It's just hustle.
Keep the brand moving.
At the end of the day, it's just hustle, man. Yeah. It's just getting the name out there, get somebody talking about it. And before you know it.
And you went for it.
Yeah.
You just went for it.
I didn't think about it.
And so here's a great thing too, is that you started this during the pandemic. Mm-hmm. So before you were training before, and then you
started this.
Yeah, you started this.
It's a product of the pandemic.
It's a product. It's amazing.
Well, let's go a little bit deeper. I started this because I got the DUI.
Oh wow!
I got the DUI, so I had to I got the DUI right like 2 weeks after the shutdown started.
Oh wow!
So it was like I think the shutdown was like March 13th or something, and I got busted maybe March 20 something. I forget what it was. So I like school was out, and the gym is out. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't sure if the school was going to pay us through the time. So I'm thinking like, fuck, I got a $10,000 ticket that I got to pay. Like, how is this shit going to get paid? I'm shitting bricks. And I remember just like I had to make something happen. I had a good buddy of mine, Hector, who kind of gave me a nice little, he chewed me out basically.
Yeah.
Hey, dude, like you got to make something happen. That ticket's not going to pay itself. So he had started doing personal training, going to clients' houses during the pandemic. Kind of got me on board with that. So like long story short, I actually started this driving to clients' houses on a suspended license.
Yeah. Wow. I remember that you would have the bands in the car, a couple of the weight ball, right?
And I would just go to clients' houses. And at the time it was like selling drugs. So everyone was in such demand. So that's when I began thinking like, oh shit, maybe what if I just stopped risking myself getting pulled over on a suspended license and brought people here? And got a weight set, and it turned into what it did, man. You make a nice little shirt off of it, and marketing schemes, and
now the equipment's paid for itself already.
It's paying for itself. Yeah, man, and that's
exactly.
And learning on the job, man. Mm-hmm. It's just learning on the job, and it's I'm very fortunate that it went the way it did, man. And a lot of that, I want to thank you for a lot of that, man, because like we have a lot of family members, who like are in that like earned income mentality, like not earned income mentality, but like work hard for a job you don't like. Mm-hmm. Work hard for a job you don't like, and that's something I don't want. And I get a lot of my hustle and a lot of my just go for it from guys like you, because I was very fortunate to be around guys like you growing up. And so thank you for that, Ken.
Yeah, I'm doing the same thing. I'm teaching, and I love teaching, and that's what I went to college for. Mm-hmm. But I have other skill sets, and I can't be idle.
No, me neither.
I do not want to be standing in front of high school kids, in another 10 years, and I don't want to be a principal. I don't want the responsibility that does not interest me. Like, it's not an ego thing for me. I'm like, if you want to make money and be a principal and have a good time, I'm not that person.
Right.
I enjoy teaching when I'm in the classroom, but I don't come home like trying to do like the best lesson plans. Like, I have my lesson plans were good. I got my good template going. My class flows. I'm a fun teacher. We crack up, but I'm not trying to teach like forever.
Right.
I'd rather continue with the energy I have to explore other things and have fun, So I do love teaching, but I don't want to do it for 10, 20 years and more, right? And the film and all this other stuff, that's fun. That's stuff that I get up excited about, that I could see myself doing many different things down the road,
right?
But to be at one job for 40 years, like, that's not who I am. Not
for me, yeah.
And
I'm kind of the same way, where I just can't sit still. Like, you're always in something, you're always doing something, and I'm the same way. Like, I get anxiety, so much anxiety just sitting in the same spot. Like, I got to get up and do something. I get sick when I sit down for too long and I'm not working on something. And yeah, man, I thank wrestling again for giving me the ability to sustain that type of workload and keep me in that mindset, man. And Kenny, we're at about an hour right now, man. I know you got a lot of stuff to do, man, so we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. Kenny, you want to talk about any of your projects you're working on before we wrap up?
So for any wrestlers out there, I'm working on a Dan Gable script right now. So we have the script. We're just looking to develop the script, which is pretty rare because if you're a wrestler, you know who Dan Gable is. So that's one that I'm working on. But I've been a consultant for the sport of wrestling. So that's how I kind of built my niche and my own brand in Hollywood. Of course, the film festival that I do, and I always have something stirring. So I'm just blessed that, I have my health and the drive and desire, right? And the support from everyone else that gets involved with the things that I do and trusts me and allows me to even keep growing and participate in the things that they do. So I'm always keeping things busy, and I just want to thank everyone that's helped me along the way and welcome everybody else who wants to participate in the things that I do. Just bring it.
For sure, man. And Kenny, I want to thank you for coming on, man. I know you're a busy guy, dude. This means so much to me, and I can't wait to get you out there and expose you to some of the people in my audience who may not have know who you are. So Kenny, thank you again, man. Appreciate it. We're gonna wrap this up. Thank you, guys. We'll see you later.